All right, guys, welcome to tonight's stream. For those of you in chat right now, can you guys help me out a little bit? Last week we had a little bit of audio issues. I just want to make sure that everything is looking and sounding fine. If you would be so kind to let me know if everything looks and sounds great, let me know. Anyways, while we're waiting for that, Nats is upon us very, very soon, much quicker than I think a lot of people realize. Uh, Nats is, let's see, today's the 28th. Sound is fine. Hello. Oh, all good. Great. Okay, so today's the 28th. The official release date of the set is the 31st. We have literally the tournament starts 2 weeks from Friday. So there's not a lot of time to A, get cards, and B, test and draft. So actually, I feel like, because the U.S. Nats is going first. There's 4 weeks of Nats, but the only Nats that is on the first week is the U.S. Nats, and this is the. I mean, I'll be honest. I feel like this is probably the least prepared people are going to be for a tier 3 event in a while, because we have to learn a very complex draft set. Plus, we have 3 heroes, all of which seem to be making an impact on the meta. And, some people are even saying like certain classes are completely dead. I've heard rumblings from the Guardian players saying that they basically have to pack up their Guardian deck and play something else. And we'll see if this is the case for Warriors. Um, Let me put it this way: if I ever register a non-warrior deck, that is a very bad sign for the state of Warriors. Because in general, I have a lot of faith in the class, and I have a lot of experience on the class, so I feel very comfortable with it. And we're getting to a point where there's like 20 something heroes in the game. So if you, let's say you pick up Enigma, let's say you grind 5 games a day, 10 games a day. In 2 weeks, 3 weeks, let's say maximum time is 4 weeks. Realistically, if you've been grinding Enigma for 2 weeks, you still have 2 more weeks left. So that's what, 30 days. Let's say you play 10 games a day, that's 300 games. Split across 25 heroes, you don't have very many reps into a lot of heroes. And even then, a rep into Dawnblade Dory and a rep into Hatchet Dory is not the same thing. So there's a lot of benefit for sticking with the class, and there's a lot of I'll be honest, I think there's a lot of talk about the new heroes. There's a lot of play on the new heroes. I don't know if people are going to show up to Nats with these new heroes. You have to get the cards really quickly, and you have to learn a bunch of matchups, and none of these heroes are very simple to play. So there might be a little bit of exaggeration on the meta share of these new heroes, but they are powerful, so I'll give them that. All right, let's jump into today's topics. And basically, there's 2 things I want to do today. All right, today everybody loves tier lists. I'm going to make a tier list, but just for warriors, and I'm going to include all their weapon styles. And then we're going to go through the important cards for the MST meta. So warrior cards and generic cards that I think are very relevant, like generics for warriors, right? So if you're not a warrior player, this stream really is not for you. But if it is, I hope that this will be a really good discussion, just like Brad said in the chat. I want this to be a discussion. I have a lot of experience on warrior, but definitely eager to hear what you guys have to say about your experiences so far. Okay, first thing to do is to make a warrior tier list. So I basically put these into 3 choices. Let's say MST warrior tier list for Nats. 2024. Just in case people watch this in like years' time. I don't know why you would, but okay. Okay, so I'm basically going to split these into 3 categories. Good choices. Now, a good choice does not mean the deck is S tier. In fact, I don't think any warrior is S tier at the moment. But I think there are some good choices. We'll consider these A-ish. Questionable choices. I'm going to put this at B-ish. And bad choices, C to D. Okay? Okay, so I've listed out what I believe to be every single style. Let's color code these a little bit. Nope, that's never mind. Let's not color code this. So I've been using this dark mode, so I don't want to burn your retinas. So but the downside is I can't make these like really pretty colors. I don't think I can do that. It's because if I pick like red, it just turns it to something else. Okay, that's fine. We'll just leave it like this. Okay, so for Dorinthia, I think there are currently 3 styles. Dawnblade. This is the classic. Hit them twice with the pointy end. Try to snowball counters. Try to, get in their face. Try to mix it up with attack reacts and Twinning Blade and stuff like that. We have the Decimator build for Dorinthia. I'm sure you guys have seen this. This is the list that plays quite a few blues, a bunch of defensive cards. It's playing E-Strike, CNC. It's playing a couple of things to speed up the clock, like Sharpened Steel, Felling Swing. Dorinthia Hatchets. This is the one you've seen since Pro Tour. Basically trying to hit 2-3 times a turn. Very, very value-focused. For Bolton, we have Switch Bolton, which is basically a combination of Combo and Raiden. Combo Bolton, this is the Lumina combo. Either the modern versions of this is generally running quite a few generics. We got Raiden Bolton, which is the heavy red-yellow deck that is not playing the combo. So they have a few more sideboard slots for, silver bullet cards like Warmongers, Censor, etc. We got Decimator Bolton. This was popularized in Warsaw. Very, very similar to Decimator Dorinthia, except you have access to Soul Shield, Radiant Flow, and Kasai. I've basically split these into 2, although they're at the moment there's only really 1 build, but I think there really should be 2. We got the defensive mid-range deck. This is the deck that was the most popular in the last set, that focuses a lot on the defensive cards, and it's basically like Dorinthia Hatchets, but using things like Slice and Dice. Obviously, the specialization is very, very strong. Less blue focused. And then we have the aggressive version of Kasai. This is running a lot more the 0 cost stuff, and it's probably running upwards of probably 12 plus attack reacts, whereas this one's running like 8. So that's kind of the difference there. For Olympia, we have Hatchets Olympia. This is one of my favorite decks of all time. I'll be honest, I really, really do love Hatchet Olympia. Plays very, very similar to the Hatchet Dorinthia list, except it's focused a little bit more on, cycling, Grains tokens, generating agility, gold, and trying to cash in or play Visit the Golden Anvil. And then finally, we have Decimator Olympia, which is, similar in style to the Dorinthia and Bolton list, except this one has a little bit more on the wager side and tries to utilize cards like Visit the Golden Anvil. So, how many styles is this? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There are 11 styles here. Can you guys in chat think of any other ones that you want me to put on? I think I covered all the competitive ones and the ones that I've experience with. So I've played every single one of these before. Um, if you guys have any other ones that you want me to talk about, I can add them. But I think this is most of them. Let's take a look at chat. I'm open to be talked into going back to Warrior. Okay. Sure. No respect for Dawnblade Olympia. Oh boy. Dawnblade Olympia. Oh man. Aggressive Dawnblade Dory might be a good pick for Nats. A lot of people forget how good the deck works. Or how the deck works. And Vambrace of Determination is good against Illusionists. Yes. Spoiler alert, I think Dawnblade Dory is one of the best decks. Mainly because Dawnblade Dory can be very, very quick, and it also has the correct tools to survive in this current metagame. And Vambrace is, spoiler alert again, one of the cards that I think is very, very important going forward. I'm going to talk about a lot of different cards in the second part of this stream. Dawnblade Olympia that you played that one time. I don't think Dawnblade Olympia has any these are the main ones that I would consider like actually registering for a tournament. Switch Dory, I've seen a lot of it. So Switch Dory, I guess, falls under this. Normally, when we talk about Switch Dory, it is Dawnblade with a Decimator for particular matchups, or Hatchet with Decimator for particular matchups. I'm going to talk a bit about why I don't know if that's correct anymore. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's start with that actually, because that's actually the first thing I want to address. Is I actually think every version of Decimator is down here at the moment. Okay. Every single version I think is down here. Let's see. Let's try to make this a little bit prettier. Let's see. It's like this? No. Like this? Sure, that'll work. Okay. So, why do I think this is like an awful metagame for Decimator? The main thing is that if we look at the three new heroes, Enigma is basically a damage check. And Decimator doesn't have enough damage. Additionally, the ward mechanic plays around the Decimator pretty well because they don't get reduced. And if you're not able to clear the board, things are going to get very, very tough. Now, I will say that Shunt is quite good because you're dealing damage on their turn, which is very few heroes can deal damage on the opponent's turn, you know, other than Kano, Riptide, Brute, Warrior, right? So there's that. That does help. But if we think about like one of the strongest tools against Enigma is things like Vambrace, things like Chorus for Warrior. Those are literally the only two. The Decimator builds do not have the resources to pour into Vambrace because it just doesn't work like that. Second of all, if we look at heroes like Zen, Decimator Warrior does not have disruption, and if you don't have disruption, these Zens are going to play their 6-card hands. They're going to use their Traverse. They're going to use their Boots. They're going to play an Art of War, and they're going to deal like 30-something damage on their burst turns. And you can't really cover that up easily, and that deck is fairly hard to fatigue. So I don't really think that's positive either. If we think about general metagame shifts as well, um, I think the KO deck and the Levia decks right now are going to have enough burst that they can. There in the past there was some threat to getting fatigued as brute, but Levia just has very good burst, and with the sash, I don't know. I feel like the brutes just have too much burst damage at the moment, so that's not good either. Um, uh, and you think about against new, you're basically playing like a guardian deck, and that's not really where you want to be. That's one of new and Enigma are one of the reasons why guardian is not very good in this metagame. I mean, all three MST heroes are very, very good against Guardian. And if you're playing Decimator, you're basically playing like Guardian, except I guess you're a little bit more resistant with the, because your blues are not the greatest, but still. Okay, so that's why I think those decks are not a good choice at the moment. Um, do you guys in chat have any thoughts on that? Because, like I said, I do want this to be a conversation. I don't have all the knowledge in the world. I know there's a lot of very very smart people in chat, so please let me know what you guys think about putting all three decimator decks down here. And I'll read some of them off and reply to them in chat. Agree, disagree? Do you think one of them is better? I think roughly all three of them are basically the same. Um, the I think LSS in general has tried to move away from Decimator being like dedicated fatigue being good. If we look at the design of these three heroes, they're all very difficult to fatigue because they all operate in different manners to play around fatigue. Like Enigma has the board state, Zen has the burst damage, New has access to all your blues. So I think it's pretty difficult to fatigue those decks. Bottom, I don't see a meta for Axe at the moment. Decimator bad, not great for that tourney. Yeah, I think the Italian list at Warsaw was preying on a very specific meta, and I think they did well. Um, but I think MST changes a lot. Agreed, but I think Dory is the best decimator build. Occasionally attacking twice is mad. Yes, that is definitely one of the good things about. So let's talk a little bit about like what each deck does better. So Dorinthia has the ability to burst at the end of the game. So generally you have bolters. You do have bolters, and you'll keep a double blue hand generally with glint. There, that way if they block, you can at least arsenal the glint. Sometimes you do this with spill blood when you have tunic and two blues at the end of the game. You can kill them from a pretty decent range. Bolton's decimator list has access to uh, extra Kano hate. It also has it's also the least expected. So people are more likely to run a clean 60 into Bolton. And so he has the best impression. Olympia has the ability to buy back armor, which is very, very strong. However, Grains and Tunic, it doesn't quite operate kind of how you want. Because for Olympia, you want to play the Visit the Golden Anvil for X equals 3 generally to get the best value out of that card. If you're playing it for X equals 2, it's not really an above rate card. So yeah, that's what all three decks do. I agree that they're pretty bad, though Decimator Bolton loses to Stack Kano less bad than the other warriors. Yep, that's correct, because has access to Radiant Flow. My thought is that with the uptick in Enigma, we might see a lot of Riptide. Decimator is a hard counter for that. Sure. That is something, that is a very, very interesting thing to talk about, is that if we look at which heroes have the most damage cannot be prevented, it's Assassin with Malign and Pick to Pieces. Murkmire for Ranger. Chorus for Warrior, specifically Dawnblade and Dorinthia. Vambrace for everybody. I think that's it. Let me quickly do a search. I'm pretty sure that's correct. Malign, Pick to Pieces. Ah, right. How could we forget about Rock, guys? Rock. Damage for Rock cannot be prevented. Pretty good, right? Tiger Stripe Shuko, of course. This is actually one of the reasons why I think Ninja is going to be pretty good. Having access to equipment that says damage cannot that will be dealt by this can't be prevented is pretty nuts. Of course, this is there's quite a bit of stipulation on this, like Phi, and so like obviously Zen uses this the best, Phi uses this probably the second best, and Katsu doesn't really utilize this very well. Yeah, I guess Vincett's hero ability too, right? So if we look at this, right, like Ranger does have access to this in Rainbow, so we could see that. I think a dedicated Decimator list does do fine against Riptide, but I don't anticipate a lot of Riptide at Nats, to be honest. Yes, there will be people playing him, but I don't know if that's like the best. While we're on that topic, in the past, I know I have recommended that you, if you're playing Dawnblade Dory, you run your Decimator in the sideboard, you run it against Azuri, Arachne, and Riptide. I think that's changed. The Riptides now are just better, and they are a lot more resilient against fatigue. So I don't think a Dawnblade Dory list that has Decimator in the sideboard should be playing it against Riptide. I still think it's fine against Azuri and Arachne, but I don't anticipate a lot of Arachne, and I think Azuri, you can survive fine if you're playing Dawnblade. Also get into the other two assassins, and we should see an uptick in those as well. That's true. That's true. Shuko, Rock, Vincett, yep. At Nats, people are going to bring comfort decks. That's another thing. This is Nats. This is not the Pro Tour. This is not the World Championship. Okay? I have been to every single Pro Tour. I've been to every single Nats. I've been to every single World Championship. And there is a big, big difference between Nats and Pro Tour. Yes, there's a lot of familiar faces. A lot of the time, the Pro Tours in the US, Pro Tour 1, Pro Tour 3, they did look kind of like US Nats, but the level of play is very, very different. I'm gonna stake my claim now. I think that the new heroes are not going to be that highly represented at US Nats. One, because it's so the set, there's no time to get cards. There's no time to get reps. Unless somebody has like completely broken something, which they might have. I really don't anticipate them being more than 6% of the meta each. If maybe 7 or 8, I'll be generous. But Uh, yeah, I. That's a very, very good point that people are going to be comfort decks to nets with many reps. Um, and I mean, we can't forget about the old powerhouses like KO. Like KO's still a very good deck. Might struggle a little bit into these heroes, but I think it's really just a. As soon as people kind of understand how to use their helmet better, that I think it'll be fine. You might see 2 to 4% new, 3 to 5% Enigma. I agree. I really don't. I would be very surprised if any of the MST heroes broke 8% at US Nets. Very surprised. Um, oh yes, and how can we forget about Azalea? Azalea, very, very powerful hero. Um, I like if you think if you forgot about KO and Azalea, I think you're gonna have a very bad time. Hatchets is better than Decimator into Assassin. Decimator gets fatigued easily by good assassins. Sure, sure. I'll admit I don't have that many reps in pure Decimator, so that's I'll take your word on that, Mephi. Thoughts on Bolton after its armory drops? Definitely gets much better. The question is that if we're I still want to know what the other two card or two cards are in the armory deck, because there should be 4 new cards for Bolton in the armory deck, and they've only shown us 3. So here's to hoping that the last card, you know, fixes some issues. I think Bolton will be fine. The issue is that it's going to be a very, very different looking deck, because if you don't have Tunic, okay, sure, the new chest piece is very, very powerful, okay. New boots, okay, we have a lot of soul generation now, so now what? It's like, okay, we probably are going to go back to a meta where we're going to pitch a card on our Via the Vanguard turn. Okay, that means we probably want to run more Valiant Thrusts. We want to run, you know, some more stuff that we want to pay for. So things can change really, really rapidly. I think probably you'll go to see less Cheerios Bolton lists. Right now, I think one of the most powerful decks is like Cheerios rated, for if we're talking about Bolton builds. I mean, Decimator as a switch, you don't switch your hatchets into Decimator into Assassins. It's just for Riptide, in my opinion. I mean, from my experience, a good Riptide player doesn't get fatigued by Decimator now. Now, in the past, sure. But if they have even a small inkling, they're going to bring Dreadbore. And when they have Dreadbore, let's pull that up. When they present this as their bow, or if they have this in their list, and basically they all have this in their list, and you draw the wrong hand, which is probably going to happen once during the game, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. Also, this just adds a ton of damage to their deck. It adds like 40 damage to their deck. So, I don't know. Alternatively, Vigor Generation. Yes, there's a. You could go with Vigor Generation in Bolton, but they're all non-light cards, so that's a little bit of a little bit odd. I think it's going to be heavily focused on kind of, attack reacts and Via the Vanguard turns. We'll probably see a resurgence of what is that 1 cost Bolton card? 1 cost attack react. Forgot the name of it. It's gonna bug me. Somebody in chat is gonna tell me what that 1 cost Bolton attack react is. Something courageous, not courageous steel hand. It's, I don't know. Somebody will tell me. Okay. Resounding Courage. There we go. Yes, that is the one. Resounding Courage. Yeah, I think we'll probably see that one. Okay. All right. So let's get back to the tier list here. So I think all three are not in a great spot. The only situation I would see is if you like you think there's gonna be a ton of like Ranger decks, and even then I don't know. I don't think that's a good choice. All right, let's go to the good choices. Let me tell you about my front runners for this meta. All right. And let's start with this because Dawnblade Dory is, if you asked me right now, Josh Natz's tomorrow, what are you playing? I'm probably registering Dawnblade Dory. And I need to be very specific about the build of Dawnblade Dory. This Dawnblade Dory list needs to be ultra aggressive. We're talking Courage of Bladehold. We're going for 6 turns. We're running Iron Song Pride. We're going real hard. All right, we're not messing around. We're not playing for 15 turns. The reason we can build such an aggressive Dawnblade list is because if Guardian is not part of the meta, that fixes a lot of issues, right? And basically, what we'll do is we'll build a deck around Courage of Bladehold, and we'll include a small package in the side with Tunic Shunts to deal with particular matchups. So that's what I think currently. Obviously, we'll include things like Chorus of Iron Song, probably as a 3 of. I think that card is not that bad. In the past I was playing 2, just like in a very vanilla metagame. So for those of you who haven't seen this card, this is a good card. This is a pretty good card. Now, the reason why this card is not that bad is if we think about the value of a yellow attack reaction, generally it's 2, right? So yellow Iron Song response, 2 value. Yellow Out for Blood, Stroke of Foresight, Puncture is going to be 2 generally. This card, you basically will play it when you can guarantee get 2 value from it. And a lot of times you will get more than 2 value from this card, because if you kill any ward, that's extra value on top of this. This card can also be tutored with Singing Steelblade. Not entirely relevant, though, because Enigma is less likely to give you Reprise. And let's not forget about the Unity effect on this card. It is not that bad. Creating an extra Courage token can put things at breakpoints. It's nice to have, right? So this is probably a 3 of going forward. For those of you who are really old school Dory players, you guys remember back at PT3 dealing with Oldhim. This was in my list, I think, during Pro Tour 3. And I mean, this is just really strong. Like, having this on the board is one of the most annoying things for a lot of decks. So why is this card good? Because if we say, okay, what do we do against decks that can defend well without giving us Reprise? So Oldhim in the past used to be able to block with the shield, activate Crown of Seeds, activate the hero ability. So he could often block for 4 with no Reprise. If he wants to give some extra armor, he can block very easily for 6 a couple times during the game with no Reprise. And this was like one of the few cards that we had to deal with that. Same thing with Enigma. How do we deal with a deck that doesn't give us reprise and can still block pretty well? Well, time for this card to shine again. So this is yeah. Very, 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 very good. Somebody's mentioning Victor in the chat. I don't think Victor is gonna be okay. Let me put it this way. So if people are playing their comfort decks, there will be Victor. However, Guardian in general is in a very, very, very bad spot. Now the question is are the Victor players playing Victor because they love Victor? Or did they play Victor in the past because Victor was strong? So that is really the case, right? Victor has a lot of issues. I'll run through them really quickly. Quite bad into KO. Quite bad into Kano, which I don't know how much Kano there's going to be. All three of the MST heroes are fairly strong into him. Being a Guardian makes you very susceptible to new. You don't clear, like, even if you have your whole E-Strike, Rouse, Jackdaw package, I don't think you clear the board quite well enough against Enigma. Guardian has always traditionally struggled into Illusionist, and I have yet to see any change in that. Even though, according to the devs, that Enigma is, very, very hard to play, but not that hard to play into. I don't know if that's true or not, but if you go watch their last dev talk, they talked about how Enigma's not hard to play into. You just need enough damage. True with Guardian sideline, Dawnblade Door is full go. Play Dawnblade, pray to get ninjas round 1 and 2. Goldman gets Illusionist and go to the lower tables. Sure. Okay, so I think I've talked quite a bit about why I think Dawnblade Dory is in a decent spot. Do you guys agree with this assessment? So let me quickly summarize. So Dawnblade Dory is the most aggressive, other than Raiden, of these lists. Has access to Chorus of Ironsong, which is a silver bullet card against this meta. The blue base is very flexible, so you can include things like hold the line if you need to. Shunts, very, very strong in general against Enigma. And people have kind of forgotten how to play against Dawnblade Dory, I think. It's been a while. And I think a lot of the heroes are going to have I think this is a fairly low defense reaction metagame we're heading into. Visit Gold Main Estate helped a little to stay relevant, just a little. I mean, if you can win your wagers and you lean heavily into the wager mechanic, Visit the Gold Main Estate is actually nuts. Like, if you go watch the show match, Jack Tang gets 20 something value from his cast homes. So it's pretty nuts. Okay, so I don't see anybody disagreeing in chat, so I think we're just gonna keep Dawnblade Dorinthi up there. All right, let's hop down here. I talked about how the other really aggressive deck is Raiden Bolton. Raiden Bolton. I'm gonna have to put it high B, in my opinion. So the reason why I think Bolton is decent but may struggle a little bit is, first of all, there's no Guardians to pick on. Raiden Bolton definitely wanted to play against Guardians, was very, very comfortable in the Guardians. I think a lot of the current, like, ninja decks in general, if you don't have the combo, they just out damage you, they don't block you. You have to work very hard for your go again. It's very, very difficult. Bolton generally has played fine into Prism, but you got to play it properly. I think Raiden Bolton, though, is going to be. I have not played Raiden Bolton against Enigma, but I theorize that this is not going to be easy. And yeah, yeah. Do we have any people that have played a lot of Raiden Bolton in this meta? Anybody else have like some opinions on this? Because this is all theory from me. I would prefer to, use some more concrete evidence. Let's talk a little bit about like what Raiden Bolton wants to see out of this meta. So if KO and Azalea are top decks, not really ideal. KO has quite a bit of armor. I mean, he does run a lot of attack actions, but the headpiece in that matchup gets a lot of value because it's very, very obvious when to use the headpiece. Like double charged Lumina, okay, time to block with the headpiece. It's really that simple, right? If you V and you double charge and they hit your bolting blade, they just save themselves 9 damage, right? But generally they're going to save themselves at least 5 damage. Plus they're going to get blocked. So if they're consistently getting 7 value from their headpiece, it's really, really difficult. Azalea has always been considered fairly difficult for Raiden Bolton because they generally don't, like, you have to find an opening, and most Azalea decks, the way that they're constructed at the moment, don't give you that option. But the good thing is that Raiden Bolton generally has sideboard slots, and they generally run 2 to 3 copies of Warmongers, so that does help balance things out a bit. But none of those two matchups are like something you're thrilled to see. The MST heroes, I don't think you're really, really thrilled to see either. Raiden Bolton, questionable in my opinion. Also tough against other warriors. That's also another good point, is that we saw a lot of Kasai and Dorinthia in the last metagame. Both are not easy for Raiden Bolton. Rorsch says, I play Raiden Bolton. Okay, tell me a little bit about that. Raiden Bolton into Enigma isn't too bad. The issue is it's hard to get go again. Yes. So if you're relying on your 3 steel hands, your 3 beacons, it's like you have to find your Spirit of Arena pretty quickly, I think, to have like that's the main thing about current Bolton, is like Spirit of Arena is, I don't know. it makes the games really swingy. Let's just put it that way. But they aren't presenting any real on hits, so you have to get a good hand. All they offer is damage. That is a good point. That Bolton against 2 of the 3 heroes can basically just keep his hand, right? You generally have enough armor to deal with the only relevant Zen on hit, which is Tiger Swipe. Enigma basically has no on hit, so if you have a good hand, you just send it. New, you don't really run blues, so they don't take that. But New is still very, very disruptive in that they can pick your hand apart, and that's really, really bad for a card-hungry deck like Bolton. With Azalea rising up, it is very hard meta for Bolton. Against Enigma, yeah, not too bad. As long as we can clear the board with around 7 damages, yep. Sure. Having ways to pump up damage to consistently get go again might work with Raiden Bolton. Yep. So we might see like yellow steel hand or, something like that. Bolton has access to a lot of poppers. Not very relevant against Enigma, but definitely helps against Prism. Ah, that's another good point. There's a lot of -1 attack hate running around. You're talking about the gloves. The gloves are actually, yeah. I was like debating whether to put them in A or B, but in the back of my mind, I was like, it's got to be a B, and I couldn't quite remember why. But now I remember why. It's the new gloves. They're called what? Stonewall Gauntlet, I think they're called. That did I get? Yeah, yeah. So this is really rough. So basically, if you single charge a V, you get screwed. Now, of course, you could break the combat chain, sure. But I mean, the whole point of V is to keep the whole combat chain together. So if Ninja is popular, this card probably sees play, and if this sees play, this does hurt Bolton a decent amount, right? So I think I can't, in good faith, put Bolton above a B-ish. All right. I'm trying the new Charge of the Light Brigade. Sure. Thinking of updating my deck to add Battlefield Blitz. Sure. That's I think that's fine. Gloves, Drop in the Ocean, the Fabled. Yeah, that's another good point. The Fabled is also, yeah. This Rounds on Me is a card that we're seeing a little bit more of. Yep. There's an instant that gives -1 whole turn 2, an Oasis like. Which there's also that one instant blue that's -1 attacks and on his still trigger. Yeah, which one is that? That one instant blue that's -1 on attacks and on hits don't trigger. A blue instant that does that? Which one are you talking about? Snag. Snag. Dense blue mist. Ah. Is this a card that people are playing? Yeah, Snag, Dense Blue Mist. Codex of Frailty is also very annoying. Yep. Do warriors suffer the most from Codex of Frailty? I mean, it's pretty annoying, I agree, but generally you're not running attack actions. Obviously, Bolton is, though. Dense Blue Mist is the main one, but Snag messes you up too. And Snag is becoming a thing because of new. Yep. So there's a lot of the TLDR is that there's a lot of things that are not quite right for Raiden Bolton. All right, let's talk about the other type of Bolton. So combo Bolton, I'm putting into bad choice. There's too much disruption at the moment. In that, I mean, if new has a single transcend card, they're going to force you to discard or banish a card from the headpiece. So I don't think that works against them. I think Zen is really quick, so I don't know if you really have time. Traditionally, combo's been fine against Ninja, but I think maybe Zen is too fast. But yeah, just in general, I think Azalea, KO, not great. Not great. Would Saber Bolton have a better time against the new MST though? But then again, wouldn't just playing Aggro Kasai become a better option? Aggro Kasai and Saber Combo Bolton are completely different decks. I mean, sure, they're both like Saber based. They both have a combo card, but they're quite different. you've ran into snag once and it was painful. Yeah, I can agree. All right, yeah, I bring it in my Enigma inventory. Sure. Yes, it's played as a super Oasis into Ninja in the sideboard. Okay, okay. So Deep Blue Sea seeing some play, or sorry, Deep Blue Mist. Okay, interesting. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, I just don't think this is the right meta for combo, and they've just been. It's very crystal clear that LSS has been slowly pushing towards, hey, we don't really want combo in our game. We don't want Luma to go boom as much. They've even reprinted Kasai with the signature weapons of the swords, right? So yeah, it's just it. Combo Bolton has just been getting worse and worse and worse over time. All right. So now that we've talked about Raiden Bolton and Combo Bolton, we could talk about Switch Bolton. Switch Bolton is probably low B, high C. Uh, I think sideboard slots are pretty important in this metagame. There's a lot of like anytime illusionist is a part of the metagame, you need sideboard slots. So Switch Bolton, the unfortunate thing about Switch Bolton is you don't have sideboard slots. So yeah. But you do get, to pick your matchups, like you get to run Raiden into the Guardians, you get to run the combo into the ninjas, you get to, and there's a little bit of unpredictability, so I think that's fine. But I still don't really think this is a good metagame for Switch Bolton. These I think are in order. Let's try to make these in order. I think Combo Bolton is probably better than it's probably like here, somewhere around here. And I think there's quite a bit of a gap between Raiden Bolton and Switch Bolton. I think there's, we'll probably put several more decks there. Okay. All right, so basically we have two more things to talk about. We have hatchets and we have dual wielding to talk about basically. But before we talk about dual wielding, do you guys agree with where I put Combo Bolton and Switch Bolton and Raiden Bolton? If so, we can move on. I agree Bolton in B tier. Hybrid Bolton doesn't have sideboard slots. Yep, that is the main problem. And Wizard Kano is in the other corner looking for praise. Yeah, Kano, I expect to see some Kano at Nats, even if this is supposedly not a good meta for Kano. Like I mentioned before, I think there's going to be a lot of people that are just playing their pet decks at Nats. It really cannot be overemphasized how big of a difference Nats and Pro Tour is. Nats, you're gonna see all 27 heroes or whatever in the game. You're gonna see at least one person register Arachne. You're gonna see at least one person, registering Reinar. So Teklovos and etc. So okay. Sadly, I agree. I'm so sorry, Matthew. Roche, okay, agree with you so far, sure. Pretty much fair enough where Bolton is at. Here's to hoping the Armory deck might somewhat boost him, hopefully. I think the Armory deck changes his playstyle radically. And I'm still waiting for, like I said before, the fourth Armory card. There needs to be some output for his soul other than unless we're supposed to become Cataclysm Burst deck. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's talk about the dual wielders. Let's talk about the hatchet lists first because so hatchet lists in this current metagame, I think, are not bad. I think Hatchet Dorinthia is probably it's much better than the Olympia deck. And that's mainly because of the you have access to Singing Steelblade and the third hit, and you have axe, and by default you play Tunic instead of Grains, which I think is quite helpful for a lot of the matchups. You can run Tunic in Olympia, but I found that with Olympia you really want to cycle the Grains tokens, so I think you're probably not running Tunic in Olympia, especially if you're running the Anvil. Like, so I'm gonna put Dory Hatchets in A. So let me talk a little bit why I think this is not a bad choice. Like I said, if Nats was tomorrow, I'd probably be playing Dawnblade Dory. But by the time we get to Nats, I might just have to flip a coin like I did at Pro Tour. I think this deck is actually fine at the moment. Now, a lot of people have said, okay, this is. A lot of people have said, like, okay, LSS has started to shift towards printing less numbery type of heroes. And at the Pro Tour, one of the reasons to be running hatchets was you had access to Dawnblade. I know some of the teams were running hatchets with Dawnblade for Dromai. I never really got to that point where I was doing that, but I could see the logic in it. Currently, there's no need to do that, so that's a couple sideboard slots opened up. So yeah, back to my point. LSS has said, or people have said, that LSS's design standpoint has changed, that they've shifted towards synergy-based power. I think that's the best way to put it. Like, you look at all the 3 new heroes. Like, Zen has to find the right combination of things. He generally wants to arsenal something relevant. He has to use his equipment to have a big turn. Whereas in the past, decks like Chain and Lexi just fell into their good hands. And they're like, oh, okay, this hand just deals 30 damage. Sweet, let's do it. Right? Whereas now you have to set up a little bit more. This reminds me a little bit like the equivalent would be Dorinthia setting up an E-Pot and a timestamp potion and a supremacy, and waiting for the twinning blade and really popping off on that turn. Or Bolton charging up his soul a bit, putting V into the arsenal, waiting for the tunic to come up, drawing a good hand with bolting blade or Lumina when you have a Spirit of Arena in play, something like that, right? So all these new heroes have that design standpoint, and the theory is that, okay, because we're moving into a synergy-based metagame, decks that just have good numbers with no on-hits are bad, right? That's the theory. Whether or not that's correct, I don't know. But that is the theory. The downside of hatchets is that they don't have an on-hit. The on-hit for hatchets is you take more damage. However, the good thing about hatchets is they have some of the best numbers in the game. Very flexible energy base. Hatchets has a very good matchup into new. You just Valiant Dynamos plus 12 to 15 defensive cards plus good numbers. If new can't hit you and you just have ridiculously good numbers, like it's so difficult for new to do anything against Hatchet Dory. Hatchet Dory can also be built aggressively, not as aggressive as Dawnblade, but the damage output of hatchets can be high enough that it makes decks like Prism and Enigma think like, oh god, okay, they just hit me for 18. Okay, that's pretty significant, right? So I think both of those are fine. The only thing I'm thinking about is like, okay, Dorinthia might struggle a little bit into Zen. However, sideboard slots in hatchets is not that tight. We could see cards like Amnesia, Censor, CNC coming back into the metagame. Definitely really, really, really strong. Yeah. And because you are a Tunic-based deck, if you're running Shunt, you actually I think you have a decent shot into Azalea as well. And Hatchet Dory, I think, has always been like 50-50 into KO. I think with the upgrades that KO got, it might be a little bit unfavored, but still a lot of play in that matchup, I think. All right, let's take a look at the chat. My friend only played Kano for the whole year. Last week got a KO deck and is practicing that for Nets. The meta is pretty bad for the dude. Okay. All right. He needs more charge cards. Even in Dusk Till Dawn, the Majestics were lackluster. The reason why Bolton cards are a little lackluster is because the devs are extremely afraid of pushing Bolton too hard. If you push Bolton too hard and combo becomes good, the metagame sort of breaks. So, yeah. Frailty hurt Enigma because of all her wards or weapons. Yeah, Frailty's, strong against Enigma. Hatchadrinthia is still a very solid deck. Good game into KO, 95-5 into new. I don't know if it's 95-5, but it is definitely favored. Shunt and smart plays can eke out wins against Enigma. And the thing about Enigma is like you're a warrior deck. Like you have attack reacts, right? So if you really need to punch through on a particular turn and they didn't draw the correct hand, they have to overblock. And overblocking hatchets gets you... If you're overblocking Dawnblade, it's fine. If you're overblocking hatchets and I have the correct card, you're mega punished. Am I crazy, or is Prismatic Leyline good for Bolton? I think it's fine. Definitely fine. The issue is that, let's say you have that card in Arsenal. You draw a red, a yellow, and a blue. So you play your blue, charge a card. Okay. Then you give it go again. Then you play your yellow card and give it go again. Then you play your red card and give it go again. Then swing at the Raiden. Okay. So your 5-card hand, you turned one of your cards in your 5-card hand into 6 value. So let's say you got 3 value from the other cards. So you got a 5-card 18. Is a 5-card 18 good enough? I don't think so. Many decks can turn 5 cards into more than 18 damage or 18 value. Also, Prismatic Leyline's not a light card. The bar for a non-light card is so high, especially after the Armory deck comes out. Like, Sink Below probably doesn't make it into the deck anymore because of the new Light Warrior D-React. Okay, MST brought a talent-based gameplay and style. Okay. In the past, you had to wait for it. Now you could rearrange a game plan and execute. Talent-based gameplay and style. Sure. Basically what I was trying to get at is, something like that. Bolton never wants to play blues. That's half the value of Prismatic Leyline. Yep. How does Hatchets beat Enigma? Hatchets can have a pretty decent pressure. Like, a lot of people think that Hatchet's Dory is not fast. I think Hatchet's Dory can be built in a quick manner. We'll see. How would you slant the Hatchet's Dory list to be more aggressive? So basically it comes with more attack reacts and things like shift the tide of battle. So if we think about like what is the best Dory Hatchet turns, they almost always begin with an agility token. When you begin with an agility token, you're way more likely to get a triple hit in. In fact, in order to do a spill blood triple hit with Tunic, you basically have to have an agility token, right? So we think about what gives us agility tokens in Hatchet Dory. Goblet. And, well, it's shift the tide of battle. It's the and. Shift the tide of battle is really, really, really good. Singing Steelblade can help. I don't know if this is the right meta for Singing Steelblade, but definitely shift the tide of battle. And I think you could just include some more. Maybe this is a good meta for commanding performance. I don't know. But maybe things like some 0 for 3s here and there. The Kano chat in the purple Discord are actually really high on Kano right now. Hopefully it's just Kano cope. I think Kano's in a fine position. I don't particularly see why any of the new heroes would be like. I've heard Enigma is very, very difficult, and on paper I think it's very, very difficult, but if they can solve that, I think it's fine. Wait, can you cut Singing Steelblade? I don't think you should cut Singing Steelblade. But yeah, I haven't sat down and built a Hatchet story list, but my first thought is playing Singing and Shift and basically trying to enable Shift on the first attack. Not the easiest thing to do. But Shift on the second attack is pretty good. Like Singing into Shift on the second attack is normally really, really, really good. Okay. So that's where I put Dory Hatchets. Any disagreements with this? In terms of Prismatic Leyline, my mind goes to Rainbow Bolt of Courage and Engulfing Light. Sure. Again, like I said, though, it requires you to keep a 5-card hand. So you need a 5-card hand where you draw. I've often talked about 2-card combos in this game and how 2-card combos are easy to set up because you put one into Arsenal, then you draw the other one, and you're good to go. If we're talking about Prismatic Leyline combo, you put the Prismatic Leyline into Arsenal, then what has to happen? You have to draw a red, a yellow, and a blue at the same time. Not that easy, I think. Maybe it is. I haven't done the math, but my gut says that's a little too cute to be competitive. But go ahead and try it. I think it's fine to take a look at that, because if we look at like realistically, what cards did Warrior get from this set? Battlefront Bastion, Prismatic Leyline, like Visit the Golden Anvil. There's really not that many in this set, so. Okay. You guys happy with where I put Hatchets? Do you guys agree that Hatchets is in A, or do you guys think Hatchets is in B? Is there a consistent kind of set Hatchets deck? Yes, there is. Given there's no Silver Bullet versus Enigma Prism, I'm not 100% sure if it's better than Domlead, though. Hatchets is just solid. I mean, there's a reason this deck was so popular at Pro Tour. Like, the numbers of the deck are good, and its worst matchups, which was Dromai and Victor, are not here anymore. So you're basically like, if the worst matchups for the deck are gone and the new matchups from MST are not that bad, The deck, therefore, has to be at least good, right? Okay, let's talk about the other hatchet list, Olympia. So the differences between the hatchet list is that Olympia gets access to more gold, higher blue count, a little bit more aggressive in general, I think. Uh, I the fundamental issue is though that none of the Olympia cards are that great. Like I I mean Galea is amazing, Up the Ante is great, but like it's not quite enough for Olympia. I think Hatchet's Olympia is like bottom of B if I had to be honest. But I I don't know. I I think Hatchet Olympia uh is fine, but it's like why it's too similar to Dory, and then the benefits of playing Dory is much higher because Dory actually has 3 styles. That's actually something we haven't talked about. Is that one of the reasons why Dawnblade and Hatchets is so good is that the style, these 3 styles, Decimator, Hatchets, and Dawnblade, all benefit each other. If you sideboard incorrectly, the Dawnblade, Hatchets, and Decimator all get a big bump. So Hatchet's good, says Bastion Don. By Lord of Fire and Flame, Majin Bey has stated the meta is not going to be great for Kano, and thy Lord will be shifting to Enigma possibly. Oh no. See that's a very good it's a very good indicator. Nathan Crawford had a very good quote on this. He said basically he was like, if Josh comes up and tells me, Josh, Warrior, complete dog shit right now, it's awful, Nathan would say, I would just take Josh's word for it and I'd cross off Warrior from my board and I wouldn't even think about it. Right? But if Josh comes up to me and he's like, man, Warrior's so good. Warrior's the best. I love Warrior. You know, great meta for Warrior. Nathan's like, yeah. Yeah. What is it this time, Josh? Right? So when specialists say that it's a good meta for a deck, take it with a grain of salt. But when specialists say it's a bad meta for a deck, you generally should believe them. So that's really the the base of it all. If I, like I said at the very beginning of the stream, if I ever am not registering a Warrior deck, something is wrong. Something is wrong. Okay? Hatches doesn't feel awful into Enigma unless they draw some Miragai or Tide Maw Perfect Hands. I feel Olympia has a problem that the second Go Again card has no effect. Well, generally you don't run. That's actually the main. Yeah, that's a good point. Is that you want Go Again every turn, but when you have too many Go Agains, all you can do is just arsenal them. It's not that great. And you also draw the second copy if you hold the first Go Again plus cash in. Yep. Yeah, the ratios for the deck are just not. It's really difficult to get everything to work correctly. I found roughly that when you have like 10 attack reactions, 10-ish wager cards, 25 to 30-ish Go Agains, that's generally the correct spot. 25-ish blues. Yeah, I think it's rough for Hatchet's Olympia. Wager cards are pretty bad, and you can gum up your hands. And you don't get triple Hatchet turns, or even the threat of triple Hatchet turns. So your ceiling on damage is much lower. Anvil doesn't help enough. Anvil needed to have Go Again. Not sure why Cast Homes has Go Again, but yeah. Ooh, I joined right before Kasai was tiered. Ah, yes. What's up? What's up, Tim Man? I know you're an avid Kasai enjoyer. Do you have any opinions on Kasai? Okay, so to play Dory Hatchets, less poppers, more attack reactions, AB2, maybe change the B to match the meta, the blues, yes. Yes, that's correct. That's a very good summary. Um, I need to hear about some Kasai, Josh. Please, I have to break down a pallet of MST tomorrow. You need to hear about Kasai because you're breaking down a pallet of MST tomorrow. Oh, how much is a pallet? Is that like 50 cases? So each box has 24 packs. There's 4 boxes in a case. How many cases are in a pallet? I have no idea. Hey, maybe Olympia will get a weapon. There we go. That's actually the main thing. If Olympia had a weapon that was like Dawnblade for Dory, he would be significantly better. Um, a weapon that says your cards that destroy gold go again. Okay, sure, something like that. Kasai swinging for 3, swinging for free. Okay. 100 cases. Oh, hello, Case. What's up? 100 cases is a lot. 100 cases. Jesus, that's a lot of product. Well, I hope you're doing well. All right, I will talk about Kasai now. Okay, so now that we've put everything into these tiers, okay, let's talk about Kasai. So, like I mentioned before, the defensive mid-range deck was the predominant one in the last meta. The reason being is that it wanted to gain an advantage in as many matchups as possible, and slanting more defensively was good in every single matchup except for Dromai and Kano. Dromai and Kano were really, really, really bad for Kasai. Dromai LL'd, and a lot of the Kano players nowadays are shifting towards other heroes. So I've heard. So those are 2 good things for Kasai, right? Let's think about, we in the context of everything, we have all of our dual wield warriors doing decently, right? Now we need to look at how does the MST heroes match up with Kasai. Okay, so if we have Kasai players in chat, please give me some opinions on these matchups, because again, this is all theory from me. So we have Kasai against, let's start off with what I think is the worst situation. Kasai against Zen. So traditionally all 3 of the traditionally both dual wield styles have basically no on hits, right? Kasai kind of has an on hit in that it's like, okay, if you get hit, I'm gonna get a gold token. I'm gonna get some copper. I can play blood on hands later. The thing is that I think the average game length for Zen is like 6 turns. So you have no time at all to throw cards into the graveyard, activate your hero ability when you actually have an attack react when you're playing the defensive style. Draw blood on her hands and play it. I really don't think there's enough time for that. And Zen has burst damage, which is most Kasai lists are trying to get the game to go, 10 to 15 turns, right? And their damage output is lower than Hatchets, so that's another issue. So on paper, Kasai should not do that well into Zen. Also, Zen has some blocking equipment, so not that he really wants to use Shuko or 12 Petal, but if you're coming in on a somewhat threatening turn, and they use the traverse, plays around some of the reactions. Let's just put it that way. I think the probably best matchup on paper should be against New, mainly because most Kasai lists are running like 25 reds, like 15 to 20 yellows, and then like 15-ish blues. So that, and the blues in Warrior really are not that relevant. It's like, okay, you took my glint. Sure. Take it. If we let's just look at some sample lists so I can show you what I mean. So let's just pull up some Kasai lists. All right, let's take a look at this, right? So let's look at the blues. Blade Runner. Completely irrelevant. Glint. As long as this is not at the very end of the game, you're never going to get reprised, so this is also irrelevant. Hit and run is irrelevant. Overpower, okay, sure. That's 2 damage for free is good. Precision press, completely irrelevant, right? So the New can't take your good blues. Also, most Kasai lists are running at least Sync Fate and I guess this list doesn't run Take It on the Chin. That's kind of odd. But sometimes they run Take It on the Chin. They run That's All You Got. Sometimes they're running Shunts. So not so easy, right? Not so easy for New to connect, right? So that should be fine. Looks like Tin Man said something. Let's see. Kasai kind of good into all MST heroes. Okay. Zen can pose problems because good lists force you to race. Yep. In my opinion, she's favored into all 3. Interesting. So tell me a little bit about Kasai into Enigma, because I have no idea about that matchup. This is actually the decks. I mean, for those of you who've been watching me for a long time, you know that these are the Kasai is the deck that I have the least experience with. I've still played it, but I spent a ton of time on the other 3 heroes. So I need your help, chat. In my opinion, against Zen, racing with Kasai might actually be a good option. So, can Kasai race is the question. The defensive mid-range deck, I don't think really races well. But a more aggressively slanted one that can use 5-card hands more effectively might be better. So what I mean by defensive and aggressive, basically aggressive Kasai lists do not draw 2 defensive cards at the same time in general. Whereas this deck is much more likely to brick on draws. So this list is probably running 9 or less defensive cards. This run is running more than 9 defensive cards. But aren't News just going to try to fatigue, drag the game to the end, and disrupt with Mask since she can't use the blues? Yes, there's definitely going to be a lot of disruption from the Mask of Recurring Nightmares. That's just in general. I guess you could kind of play around that by not having too many, like just utilizing your arsenal correct, but that's quite difficult to do. The main thing is that dynamos plus defensive cards are just so good against New, no matter whether you're playing hatchets or sabers. I think the more defensive you go into New, the worse the matchup is for Kasai. Sure. For reference, I'm on an aggressive list. Enigma feels like if you run Vambrace in your favorite. Okay, so if you're running Vambrace, Kasai has enough play into Enigma. Plus, you have Grains, so you're generally keeping an extra card for Grains, for Bracers or Vambrace. So, okay, sure, I can see it. Do you have an example of an aggressive list that is tuned for this meta that you would be willing to share on stream? You can message me on Discord and I'll pull it up. Okay, so TLDR, I think these both are... I think the aggressive list is definitely better at the moment. We need some speed. Like I said, Enigma is basically a damage check. But Kasai overall still has a lot of the solid things going for her. She has access to dynamos. She has access to all 3 blocks. She has the ability to be built in a more aggressive way. Has good payoff cards. Certain decks are it's very hard for them to defend. Is she good into KO and Azalea? She's probably more resilient against the flush bag than Dory Hatchets are, so that's good. Kasai can run Shunt and Tunic, but I don't even know if most lists are. Yeah, like, for example, even this list is like, okay, we're just running grains in every list. Sure. So if you're just relying on these Think Below Fate Foreseen type of effects, I think that's not quite good enough. Yeah. But I think that's kind of the main difference is that Dory Hatchets has access to Shunt more easily and just has higher damage output and has the appearance of different decks, right? If you present Kasai to me, I know 70 of your 80 cards, generally. Okay, TLDR, I think these are both in the middle of the road. I'm just going to put them right smack dab here. Something like that. I'm going to put Kasai kind of in the B-ish range. I think she's a fine choice. I don't love her position, though, at the moment. I think she'll be somewhat fine against KO, but Azalea, frowny face. Maybe I don't know much about Azalea Rangers in general, my locals, except Riptide. Sure. Yeah, I think if you don't have access to Unmovable or Shunt, things are going to be rough. And, you know, because of the higher blue count of Dawnblade and Hatchets, you're able to run those. So yeah. Okay. All right, guys. This is roughly where I see the Warriors going into Nats. By the way, Papaya's most played list is generally considered an aggro list. Is about the sideboarding. Yeah, if you're running Outland Skirmish, red and yellow, and Slice and Dice red and yellow, you're very, very aggressive. Yeah, this is definitely not a defensive list. You only have 9 defensive cards. Interesting though that this I guess with run through you don't need in take it on the chin as much. Yeah. Iron Song Pride. This list is probably the Dromai meta. This is a card that I think can be interesting though. In Kasai. Okay, guys. So here's the tier list. Any general thoughts on this before we move on to talking about important cards for this meta? It's Dromai meta card. Yep. All right, we'll give you guys a minute or two to post your thoughts on it. Meanwhile, I'm going to have some spicy red pepper beef jerky. I'm a big fan of spicy food, but in the US, things are never as spicy as they seem. One of the things I loved about Thailand is like, oh, all right, this thing has some kick to it. So, anytime I can get the spicy version of things in the US, I generally try to. But even this was like, okay. Looks all good to me. Are Decimators bad because Enigma is a damage check? Decimator. So Enigma is definitely a damage check. Yes, that is one thing for sure. In general, though, they just go over the blocking value of your deck, like Zen, or they play with a board state, like Illusionist. Yeah, there's just many issues with Decimator at the moment, in my opinion. It was good in the last meta, but in this current meta, I don't really see it. I'd be happy to be wrong though, but I do have some bias. I've never really liked Decimator, but I don't even think it's that great at the moment. If it's consistency and overall damage potential, I might place both Kasai above Raiden. Mainly because I'm a little bit more biased into Kasai. Sure. I mean these three I think are all roughly about the same. Like this is there's like a gap here. These are all roughly the same. These are roughly the same. These are roughly the same. Hatchet's Kasai. Oh man. Hatchet's Kasai was just because of Dromai. Felt decent at the end of heavy hitters. Okay. So that was a list that mainly was just using that just to clear and combo with the with blood on her hands. Sure. Hatchet Kasai does yeah. Does have higher damage. Personal fun tier list when? What do you mean by personal fun tier list? You mean which ones I like to play? Like which ones do I Okay. We can do this really quickly. That's what you're talking about, right? Don't you think it's worth having a Decimator on side? It's just one slot, helps against Riptide even with Hatchet's cards. I talked about this already, Bruno. I don't think a Decimator really helps against Riptide. It in the past it did. But good Riptide players don't get fatigued by half-assed Decimator decks. If you're a full Decimator deck, sure, you could fatigue a Riptide. But most Dawnblade lists and Hatchet lists, if they just add a Decimator in the sideboard, don't have sufficient support to deal with a Riptide that presents 73 cards plus Dreadbore. Didn't think Decimator ever beat a good Guardian. Yeah. Decimator is good against bad players, though. I will say that. When you play against good players and you flip over Decimator, they just have too much agency to do whatever they want. What have you been having the most fun playing? Yeah. Okay. Very simple. Josh's personal enjoyment of Warriors tier list. Dawnblade Dory. Well, okay, here. I like this deck. I like this deck. And I love this deck. This is my let's see, put this in the middle. All right. S, not A, S. Played these a lot and will continue to play these. Okay. S, A, and all of these go down here. Combo actually is fine. I don't like combo. Raiden is also here. I've never been a huge proponent of pure Raiden lists, but I know that they're strong and people do enjoy them. Kasai unfortunately goes all the way down here. I don't like Kasai very much compared to the other warriors. And Dory Hatchets, I've already said, puts me to sleep. Did I get them all? Was 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, here we go. He is. I love my children equally. Wink. Yeah. So this is my personal tier list. Dawnblade Dorinthia was the one that I played forever. This is my the original deck that got me into it, right? Let's put this. Let's go like this. Switch Bolton, I also played for a very, very long time. And it combines all the things that I like. And I think this is actually one of the coolest deck builds is like, okay, how do I build a deck that can support two game styles fully? Hatchet Olympia, I just love Olympia, period. And Hatchet Olympia, I think, is one of the most, it's the coolest way to play him, right? Yep. That's my tier list for my personal enjoyment. Okay. Think of Riptide as a semi-Lexi. Lexis don't get fatigued. Mm-hmm. I'm going to need an Olympia Hatchets list. I have 2 Visit the Armory from the pre-release. You could check out the show match that we did with Blue Pitch. It should be on the channel. I have a list posted there. You could put Kasai F tier on your enjoyment. It's okay. I mean, Kasai gets to play all the warrior cards. I can't hate her. She's just not quite my style. I understand why people like her, and I know what makes her strong. It's just eh. Eh. Is there some potential for an Olympia Sabres list that use multiple courage? That's something I never even thought of. That's actually interesting, yeah. So yeah, I mean that maybe. I do think the damage lost from that might be significant though, but we'll see. Are you gonna be at Nets, bud? I need the Dory sleeve. Yes, I will be at Nets. And yeah, if you guys are going to US Nets and you see me, you know, come up and say hi. I will give you a Dory sleeve. And I've even been putting warrior foils in them, so you can get a random warrior foil with the sleeve. Thank you for humoring the silly tier list request. That's all good. Sometimes we gotta make some fun lists too. All right. Okay. So this is I guess the end of part 1 of today's stream. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about is important cards for the MST meta. So warrior specific cards and the generic cards. So one of the things about playing warrior for so damn long is I've basically tried every warrior card that exists in some way or some way or some form, right? So there are cards that are very, very old, and we're currently in a situation that reminds me of an older situation. So the very first thing that I mean, I talked to you guys a little bit about this already, was how this meta kind of reminds me of Oldham. And in the past, what did we do against decks that could block very well without giving us reprise? We needed cards like this, right? So we think about how do you block without using reprise? Well, that's armor or prevention effects, right? So Vambrace, let's just start listing some of them. Okay. So we'll move this down. All right. Last chance if you guys want to screenshot this. Here you guys go. Okay. Let me put there's a gap, right? Between I think these are low B, these are high B. All right. Last chance to screenshot that. I guess you can always go back in the VOD, but yeah. We're moving on from this. All right. Important cards for the MST meta. Okay. Let's talk about some warrior cards. Let's talk about some generics. I'm just going to start listing them, and then we'll kind of go through them. Okay. Nag. Warmongers. Stonewall Gauntlet. What's that amulet called? Sensor. So warrior specific stuff. Iron Song Pride, I think, is pretty important. Chorus of Iron Song. Vambrace. Termination. Overpower. I'm going to put E-Pot and Time Snap under Warrior and not generic. I know that they're generic cards, but I think these are kind of important in the current builds of Warrior because Overpowers, I think, is very important right now. Agility tokens, just in general. Yeah, so we'll just start with these. I'm going to probably have a bunch of these by the time we get through here. Any other cards that jump out to you guys? I'm going to add some more. I think there's also, what was that new card called? The one that takes the color away. That might be relevant, but I mean, it blocks for 3, right? What was that card called? Like Blanche, I think. What was it called? Oh, blocks for 2, but it has 7 power. Okay. I don't know. We can put it on here. Oh, what was that other card? The Battlefront Bastion. Also, I think quite important. Good against Prism. Okay, let's see. Warriors are so spoiled to have this treatment. Loud for president. You're too kind. Oh, Blanche. Somebody already mentioned it. Okay. Warrior needs the love to hoping we get a new warrior out soon, specifically hoping for a shadow warrior. Ah, so talented warrior. Yeah, we haven't had a talented warrior in a while. Blanche, Red Blanche. No, legit, Josh takes care of an entire class community. uh, Whenever there's turbulence without fail, the man. Yeah, I know a lot of people. A lot of people do message me like, Josh, I need some help with warrior stuff. I'm like, all right, I got you. Blocks for 2 though. Yep. Uh, that's all you got has been good against. Oh yes, yes. That's all you got is a good thing to talk about. Yeah. That's a good card. Yep. Okay. You know what? Let's just let's see. Let's just quickly run through on the side here. That'll be easier for me to see. All right. Ah, agile windup. That's the first one that's jumping out. Commanding performance, maybe. Like this and this are kind of the same thing. So you might be looking at this like, Josh, commanding performance is and overpower are completely different. What are you talking about? These, you think about the purpose that they serve, in particular in Dory Dawnblade, but in all decks. These ensure that whatever you're doing hits, or is more likely to hit, right? You play Commanding Performance, generally it's a sideboard card, right? So if you're playing Commanding Performance, it's relevant. You play Commanding Performance and go do something, very likely for that something to connect. If you play something and you back it up with Overpower, it's very likely to hit, right? I think it's very important that we have cards that ensure our stuff hits. And that brings me back to the E-Plot. In order to pay for effects like this, you need to have the resources for it. Right? All right, what else? I think we might see a slight shift to Fatal Engagement instead of Overpower. Like, I'm talking about the blues in particular, right? The reason being is that this in blue has no effect on us if New steals it. Ah, lead with speed. Mm-hmm. This is the card that was in my Pro Tour list, got cut, but I think might be making a return. Plowthrough is pretty good. I don't know if it's quite the meta for that. Runner, I think is also pretty good. Let's write that down. So what does runner do? It allows us to speed up, because if we have an agility token, we can go 6 go again, make an agility token. Very, very above rate. If you could get the effect. This is probably the popper of choice for hatchet lists going forward. Okay, I'm just going to write shunts in general. Rainbow Shunt may be the correct meta for this, especially if Enigma gets more popular. The reason being able to deal damage on their turn is very, very relevant. Chorus I've already written about or wrote it down. Um, This is a card I've been thinking about. Well, Run Through is another card I've been thinking about. So let's talk about Run Through first. So, in general, everybody is like, well, we don't block naked Dawn Blades. Well, now that that sentiment has permeated throughout the community a lot, this card actually becomes a good 2-card hand when people stop blocking Dawnblade. So, especially if we're in a quicker meta, this is a good card. Is there any relevance for Shatter in this current meta? Is there any relevance for Shatter? So you can only play this with Decimator or Dawnblade. Obviously, you could play it with Raiden, but you would never do that. I don't think so, unless Tech Leviathan is a huge thing. Shift, I mentioned. Singing Steelblade is also very important. Shunt, I talked about. All right. Now moving on to the blues. Yeah, there's not really anything here. Yep. Okay, so let's move to generics. I don't think there's that many. You guys have any cards that are jumping out or that you want to put on the list? Is Exude Confidence good? Probably not, but interesting. I think Fendel's Fighting Spirit has kind of been replaced by some of these new cards. Is Humble good? Humble's... Humble only blocks for 2. Yeah, I don't see any like super important or relevant generics for Warrior. The main ones are here already. Let's see what chat has to say. Haven't seen a talented warrior pull to Crag in the corner. This round's on me? Okay, yeah. Yeah. Very good against 5, very good against, you know, the new Ninja Zen. Route potentially, yeah, route is, yeah, so, yeah, this can be put here. I mean, route's probably a 2 of in most story lists now. Do you value Iron Song Determination more or less right now? I think Iron Song Determination is when you aren't playing a lot of these. If you have Commanding Performance and Overpower in your deck list as 3 ofs, like red Overpower, and you have E-Pots to pay for things, like you don't need Dominate. You just present your attack and you're just chilling because you're like, I know this is gonna hit. Right? Whereas Determination is like, if I don't play Determination, it's not gonna hit, right? I think determination's fine. Determination is relevant. The reason being is that when we're in this current metagame, Dawnblade Dory is trying to snowball counters. And Iron Slug Determination is one of the best tools for getting counters and keeping counters. It also gets their armor very early in the game, which is helpful. Yeah, good card. Besides maybe high rolling dynamos, probably not. Unified Decree /S. Oh, one day Unified Decree will be good. Like Unified Decree. I mean, yeah, memeing on this card. This card eventually will be broken. May not happen before Dory LLs, but if you print enough effects that give Go Again at instant speed or reaction speed, this eventually will be good. That art is so dope. Amnesia is good for Katsu and Zen. Yes, Amnesia is a very good card. Probably one of the most, like, first of all, this is a 6 power 3 block. There are not a lot of 6 power 3 blocks. Watch this. Power equals at least 6. All right. Equal to or greater than 6. Pitch, we're basically talking about reds, but that's fine. And then we'll set defense to 3. And we'll make it generic. Very few cards are going to show up. All right. Very few cards. Good old Command and Conquer, obviously, is here. Nourishing Emptiness is good, but it can't be played in very many decks. Brutal Assault has no text. Raging Onslaught has no text. Raging Onslaught Yellow has no text. So then we have 3 cards remaining. Amnesia, Pay Up, Weakest Link. Pay Up was basically for limited, I guess. And it also costs 3, right? So Amnesia and Weakest Link. These are the 2 cards that have potential to be as decent as Command and Conquer. In the correct metagames, these 2 cards are just as good as CNC. Right? They have on hits, and they have devastating on hits against particular decks, right? And Weakest Link, we actually probably need to write that down. Right? Amnesia, Weakest Link, Command and Conquer. 6 attack, 3 blocks, cost 2, has an on hit. Really, really, really strong. Right? Crouching Tigers are tokens, so Rippleway probably better. Okay, so yeah, Rippleway is an interesting thing to talk about. Yeah, we'll write that down. So after we have our list, we'll kind of go through them. Nasty Surprise for new. Sure. Yeah, that's another card that could be good. New is banishing more than she's discarding. I think Nasty Surprise has to go to graveyard to proc. Ah, yes, you're right. Okay, less good then. Okay. All right, let's run through some of these cards and why I think these are going to be meta players. So, I guess the main theme. Let's write something here. Ability to race is important. Ability to ensure hits is important. Okay? Now more than ever, at least for... I'm mainly talking about Dawnblade Dory, but this is just... This is really, really just 2 things that are like, yeah, important in general, right? So if we think, let's color code this. I know I wasn't really trying to color code things before, but let's see if we can get a decent color code on this. So let's say this is red. It's not really showing up as red. And oh, that's really an ugly green. All right. No, that's not very clear either. All right, we'll do it like that. Oh, actually, what we could do is we could use the highlight here. Nope, that's all right. Whatever. We got red and blue. Okay, guys, we'll use red and blue. Okay. So I'm gonna basically talk about which cards help with which of these things, right? So remember that these are the two things that are very, very, very important for Warrior, right? Important effect or important. What's the correct word for this? Things in the MST meta to, let's say, desirable things. Okay. So, why is the ability to race important? There's some fast decks in the format. There's some decks that we don't want to give them time to set up. Why is it important that our hits hit? Is because, I mean, Dawnblade needs to connect, and hatchets need to connect in order to get value. Bolton, like Bolt of Courage, needs to hit. Lumina needs to hit. Okay, so Iron Song Pride. This actually falls into both. But this is mainly for racing, right? Because Iron Song Pride basically says, all right, it's time for us to start racing, right? The card does not have a block value, which tells you this card is very strong, right? It's an attack reaction, sort of. It basically demands a D-react from the opponent, or it just gains too much value. Okay. But it also basically helps. This one falls under both, to be honest. But we're going to say it's mainly for racing. Okay. Chorus of Iron Song. This card is for ensuring our stuff hits. I've already talked about how there's not a lot of cards that say damage this would deal can't be prevented. And this is one of the few ones. It's a good card. It's also, like, if you run out of attack reacts, oftentimes Chorus plus Overpower are the ones left in your deck. And this is a very, very flexible attack react that you could grab with Singing in the late game. It's a good card. Overpower, Commanding Performance, Route. These all ensure our stuff hits. I said already that it is very, very important to make sure your stuff hits, because the effectiveness of Dorinthia is way lower if she's not hitting. That's partly why the last metagame was not very good for Dawnblade Dory, was because there was just so many defensive decks running around. Epot and Time Snap. Now, obviously, these are not like great at racing, but these in combination with these help us ensure things hit. Ooh, that's not right. Agility tokens. This helps us race. Agility tokens are one of the most powerful additions that Warrior got from the last set. Here are 3 of my favorites. Shift the Tide of Battle, Agile, Wind Up, Lead with Speed. All very, very solid cards. In particular, these all combine well with Twinning Blade and combine well with Bolters as well. Fatal Engagement. This is, I mean, this is if new is prevalent, this is a very, very minor point. We'll just leave it there though. Runner helps us race. Shunts is a whole nother category. Yeah, we'll put these like in others. And Iron Song Determination obviously helps us hit. All right, so kind of like that. Okay. Is there any other cards that you guys would like to add to the warrior section? If not, we can move on. I think these are mainly what I think we're going to basically see a couple of these cards come back into fashion. And we're going to see a little bit of adjustments in the way warrior decks are built. Again, this is like mainly for Dorinthia. And the reason it's mainly for Dorinthia is because I put Dorinthia like up here, right? Like, I think at the moment, these are basically the only two decks that you should be possibly thinking about. That's why most of these points are going to lean towards that. We could also do a deck build for like Dawnblade Dory. I think if you guys want to see that, we could do a quick build on that. All right, let's talk about the generics. So generics, I guess we could think about them in this way. Okay, let's put this here. We'll make this bigger. Bold this. Okay. Let's categorize the side. Like most of these are sideboard cards, right? Or sideboard meta call cards, right? So let's kind of categorize these. So Snag, mainly used for new. Warmongers, mainly used for Azalea. Stonewall Gauntlet, mainly used for Ninja and Bolton. Sad face for Bolton. Amulet of Echoes. This is a card I don't think people have really been talking about, but this is one of the better cards. Yes, sorry. Yes. All right, Amulet of Echoes. This this is an old school card from Everfest. So basically, you have to put this into the battlefield. Now, the good thing is that this is a blue, so you can just run this as part of your energy base. It doesn't block, though, so there's that. But, I mean, if we're in a racing meta, it's probably fine. Now, the question is that is losing 3 value worth this? Now, arguably, in the decks that you're targeting, this is worth way, way more than 3 value, right? So let's think about, like, compare this card to a blue block 3 in a racing matchup. So you see this, you deploy it. So this is kind of like a stop valve against Zen. just having this on the field makes them have to play in a particular way. And you can probably get very, very, very good value out of this. So I think this card could be very, very strong. Hold the Line. Very good against Brute. Ninja. Who else draws 2 cards a turn? Cash In. Who else draws 2 cards per turn? You know what? Hold the Line. I should put Balance of Justice. In the past, it would be like Tome of Imperial Flame, Dromai, but yeah. How good or bad does Emboldened Blade get with MST? I don't know if we're in the right meta for it, but I mean, Emboldened Blade was like always a decent card in Dawnblade, but it's not a card you were thrilled to play. But it's solid. Prism. Ah, yeah, Prism. Kano? I mean, that's not a slash S, Sebastian. I actually think AB3 Balance of Justice might be the correct way to play into Kano. Either that or AB2 Tunic Balance of Justice. Amnesia, good against Ninja. What else does Amnesia do? Cards and tokens lose and can't game names. So I get, is this also effective against decks that want Rune Chants? Like if they own 3 Rune Chants, now they don't own any Rune Chants? Is that how that works? I think it is, right? So I guess we could put Runeblade here. It was a slash S when it was just Hold the Line. Amnesia good for Prism Heralds? Okay. Prism Heralds. Cards and tokens lose and can't game names. Ah, right, because they lose the name of Herald. Right. Okay. Okay. Censor, guys. This is a card that might see some play. You gotta know the meta game really, really well. But this is a 1-cost card, right? So it's like, okay, so this is not a popper. It's just disruption. But Censor has been used in Dawnblade and in Hatchets, so maybe there's a world. Also, you could Tunic Censor, one of the best 1-card plays. Chains of Eminence seem pretty funny when Zen creates a tiger in hand. Chains of Eminence, yeah. Censor is an amazing card against Katsu. Well, I think this is even better against decks that are running like 9-ofs. Does Katsu run a lot of 9-ofs? Yeah, I think Crouching Tiger, naming Crouching Tiger off Censor is pretty good. All right, we'll put Ninja for now. Could also be very good against New because you know when she arsenals a Slither or Fang Strike. Sure, yeah. Maybe Assassin. Yeah. Vambrace of Determination. This is quite good against the Illusionist. I already talked about this card quite a bit, so I don't think we need to talk about it anymore. Blanche. This card is very, very Interesting. I have to. This side note, this art feels out of place, doesn't it? I don't know. This art seems kind of, I don't know. Doesn't match the rest of the set, but it's okay. Mark Poole painted this. Interesting. Hmm. Very, an artist that has done a lot of artwork for the game and for Magic. Cards. This is good against all the Mystic heroes, right? So there's that. Battlefield Bastion. This is mainly against Prism because it'll pop and then protect you against the breakpoint on the next attack. Uh, can you guys think of any other good uses for this card? Uh, you could say Bonds prevents 7 or more damage on Katsu. Yeah, Bonds is how they normally deal their big turn. Blanche stops Prism's need for a yellow 2, doesn't it? Does the current Prism need yellows? Yes, it does. Okay, yeah. Angel's Glow, yep. Sure. Guys, again, back to my question. Do you guys think this can do anything? Stops the weapon right. Blanche is good against Thea. Not sure what that is. Oh, Phi. Phi. Let's think. How is Blanche good against Phi? Like their Blaze Hedgehog doesn't see the red. Oh yeah, okay. So Battlefront Bastion can help block the Kodachis and a Kodachi lock. Blocks the Tiger Tamer and the Tiger for one. Sure, yeah. Yep. Sure. That's all you got. This thing is very good right now, isn't it? It's good against the Mystic heroes. It's good against the dual wield warriors. What else is it good against? Like ninja. Seems like a decent time to be running. That's all you got. Stops Furnace, which Phi never used often. Sure. Good against Dromai LL. Yeah. This round's on me. Ninja. A lot of you guys mentioned this card. I don't know if. Mm, I don't know. I've never been like super in love with this card. Maybe you guys can convince me otherwise. Like, why do you think this card is so good? I know this card used to be like 15, $20, but I don't know. What about Erase Face? Hmm. I don't know. I don't think it's that good. Assassin isn't thrilled by. That's all you got. Bolton doesn't like this card. Yeah, Bolton doesn't like a lot of cards. Uh, I don't like the fact that my opponent gets to draw a card. Yeah, that's. I, I think that card was only used against like really wide Phi, and even then, I don't know. The weakest link, this card, I think is gonna be good. If you come in and just, I don't know, at the right time, this thing just looks. This card is basically saying if you play with any no blocks in your deck and I attack at the right time, you have to block this like it's a command and conquer. I think this card's going to be pretty good. Erase face stops Zen for a turn. Mm-hmm. Blanche can disrupt Light the Way and Beaming Verado. Sure. Fine. Let's add this more Bolton hate, because Bolton's such a meta deck. Mm-hmm. So weakest link, good against Brute, Ninja. Who else plays no blocks? Illusionist. All right. Humble, I think we've, yes. Somebody. Humble, losing your hero ability. It's pretty annoying for most decks. I guess it's mainly more for. I, I don't know. The fact that you get to see their hand that's another very good point. Getting to see their hand is super important. Oh yeah. Weakest link is good against all the Mystic Heroes in general. This card, I already talked. I'm gonna highlight these because this and this, I think, are gonna be all stars. These block 3. That means the floor is actually quite high. I think if you don't have Amnesia or Weakest Link in your deck list, like, I don't know, I could see this like being just as good as Command and Conquer. It hits Wild Ride, Bare Fangs, Art of War. Like, you don't want to play defensive Art of War. I guess you could, but yeah. It hits, I guess, Heart of Fendel. Yeah. Okay, we finally got Ripple away. So that's against all the Codex users. Brute as well. The Zuri stock's way up. Is it? Yeah. Yeah. Swapping in either of these is pretty devastating. Yeah. Okay. All right. So what do you guys think about all this? Man, I've been talking for 2.5 hours. Holy crap. I hope you guys have been enjoying today's warrior class. Does Ripple Away stop Zen from creating tigers? Huh. This is token rarity, but it is not a token. So I think that doesn't prevent it. The double Art of War and is real against the weakest link is so annoying. Yep. Looks good to me, to be honest. Just wish Bolton could play the sideboard cards. Well, that is unfortunately how they designed the hero. You look at the other heroes, it's actually an interesting situation, right? You look at Levia, she runs all the good brute cards like Blood Rush Bellow, Swing Big, right? And a couple of the other brute cards. In addition to all her Shadow Brute cards. Chain played a lot of generics. You guys remember Plunder Run and Belittle and Minnowism and all that? Prism was so good she didn't need to. And then poor old Bolton wasn't that good and was forced to play a lot of light cards. So, yeah. Bolton is in such a bad way. Let's just say it could be better. All right. Okay, so I think we did well today. I think we talked about everything I wanted to talk about. So, quick summary, we made our warrior tier list for the Nats, right? So I think if you're considering a deck, you probably should be considering Dorinthia, which builds. I think they're both fine. If Nats was tomorrow, I'd play Dawnblade. I'm going to be testing both of these, I think. I think there's just not enough time, so I'm not even going to really look at all these, basically. So I'll probably, at Nats, I'll end up on one of these. We made this kind of joke tier list here. All right. And then, yeah, we went through all the important cards for MST meta. Again, the ability to race and the ability to ensure on hits is very important. A lot of these cards allow you to do that. There's a lot of sideboard cards that are viable in this metagame. I'm going to point out Amnesia and Weakest Link again because these are blue. Sorry, not blue. These are block 3s. So, again, the floor is not that low. Right? There's a lot of cards that can be used. Yeah. Ripple Away is decent against Runeblade. Sure. Yeah. Shadow Realm Horror. Yeah. A very good upgrade for them in the last set. Okay. So, I think that's kind of where we're going to call it for tonight. I think we're going to wind down a little bit. If you guys have any more questions, you guys can leave them in the chat. I'll try to answer them before I get off. We have, what is this? 100 and something viewers. That's great to see. Glad you guys are all tuning in to the stream. Thank you so much. Great stream, Josh. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Nats is coming up real quick. About 2 weeks left. Got to get some practice in for draft. Got to solidify a deck. Lots of stuff to do. Again, for those of you guys who are going to be at Nats, please come up, say hi to me. I will give you a 2024 edition Dawnblade Dory sleeve. For those of you in Europe or in Asia, I will be at Pro Tour 5 in Amsterdam. So if you go to that, I'll see you guys there. And for those of you in Asia, I will be going to the World Championship in Osaka. So, yeah. Burdens of the Past, your thoughts. This is, I mean, not the right meta. I don't think there's any deck that's playing 10 D-Reacts in their deck. I'll get one someday. I mean, if you don't go to a lot of events, what you can do is you can ask your friend to come say hi to me, and I'll give him or her 2. And then they can pass you 1. That's okay, too. All right. Looks like we don't have too many more questions, but so that's okay. So I guess I'll just be getting out of here then. We got 2 more streams before Nats, so we will try to get some games in the next one so people have a little bit. Like on most of my streams, I like to play some games because I don't like to just talk for 2 hours, but I think there was just so much to cover that that's kind of what we had to do. So, all right, guys, this has been Josh Lau with the Card Guys. Oh, well, I don't mean to doom and gloom, says Chaotic Galaxy, but I don't think Warrior has any merit this season. Oh, well, I think Dawnblade, Dory, and Hatchet Story have some merit, but we'll see. We need more cards for Olympia. I think we do. That would be. I really thought the Bolton deck was going to be an Olympia deck, but all right. All right. Anyways, this has been Josh Lau, the Card Guys. I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's stream. Have a good evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you're at. Take care. Bye bye.